after September 11th, obviously the anniversary of the terrorist attacks on New York City. So I just wanted to come on here and talk to my people. You know, yesterday I read that proclamation, the most recent proclamation from the Hawaii governor twice. It was 90 minutes each time. I'm kind of proud of myself that my voice lasted that long. But the first time I read it, there was just like a clicking noise and a whole bunch of other problems. So I did it again last night. I hope that it went better so that anybody who's interested, and I totally understand if people aren't interested, but I felt like kind of a calling to just go ahead and read it out loud because it's so hard to digest that kind of thing. Good morning, Dana and B and Dana. There seems to be a little bit of static right now. Dang it. Oh, you know what? Why don't I try to restart? Or let me just see if I put in my earbud. One sec. You guys are so nice to put up with me. I am so technologically challenged, but I think I just organized my purse, so I should be able to find my freaking earbuds, but now I don't even remember where I put them. But check out my new purse. It's very cool. I got it when I was up in Chicago for my son's graduation. No, I can't find it. Dang it. Like I said, I just organized everything, and what the heck did I do with it? Hold on another second. Let me see if there's any possibility that I can find the air. I got them. I got them. Unbelievable. Oh, like I said, you guys are so nice to put up with me and my lack of technological ingenuity. Let's see if this will do the trick that I'm looking for. So, is it better, Dana? Organized chaos always seems to work better for me too. Well, of course, and as a mother, you know, you just kind of have to roll with it. So I'm rolling with it. Thanks you guys for rolling with it. Um, is it better? Can you, are you able to let me know if that stupid clicking is still there? Because I can't hear it at all. But then when I was reviewing the video, there were just so many problems with it. And then last night, though, I don't think the problems were in the one from last night. Never mind, it's good. Okay, cool. We just needed to turn it up. Okay, so let's do my normal routine stuff. Please hit that like button if you'd be so kind. Share, subscribe, ring your notification bell. So as you can see, I'm on my cell phone instead of my laptop because I'm having issues with my laptop because I just won't even get into it. I'd like to say, you know, if that's my biggest problem in my life, I'm one heck of a lucky individual. So, you know, I've been really focused on the Maui fires, as you guys know. And I've kind of wondered why. I mean, I've been to Hawaii a couple of times, as I've shared with you, but not to the island of Maui because that one's so freaking expensive. But I figured out why over the weekend. It's better, but it's better, but still there. Is there a fan nearby? Maybe it's the fan in the computer. You know what? I don't have my computer on, and it might be a fan in the iPhone. I don't know. But actually I had a fan going last night, and maybe that white noise drowned it out. I'm just gonna go ahead and roll with it. I don't even think that my earbud is doing anything, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. At least it makes me look like I'm technologically inclined. Okay. I don't like to ever put on any airs for you guys. I like to just keep it real. And at the same time, it's YouTube. So you can't keep it too real because there's a lot of freaking trolls out there, and thanks you guys for not being trolls. It's weird, isn't it? I mean, you would think that people would have better things to do with their time than just troll around for people to mess with. But that's kind of a thing in real life, and so obviously it transitions over to cyberspace. So I wanted to talk about stuff that I didn't talk about yesterday because I was just trying really hard to read that freaking document. So I didn't realize that it was the seventh. I didn't realize until the seventh proclamation that there were more proclamations than the one that they did, obviously, on July 17th. And I have my printed copy of that right here. And I am still kind of dumbstruck by the proclamation relating to housing that's dated the 17th day of July 2023. So you guys see that? That's that first 10-page document that I read to you, and um, it's 25 pages altogether. I won't get into it because this document stuff is not what I wanted to focus on. I wanted to focus on a conversation with my people, since in the first live yesterday, there was a lot of interaction and I missed most of it. And then in the second live, I was trying to keep up, but there wasn't that much interaction, which is fine. You just fly by the seat of your pants and see how it goes. But I really wanted to focus on the terrorist attacks in New York, while also focusing on what I question if it was terrorist attacks on the people of Lahaina. And let me qualify that by saying that you guys, I'm part Native American, and I think that legally I am a quarter Native American, and by actual bloodline, I'm an eighth Native American. But for those of you that don't know, when the lineage of your bloodline is from the maternal side, it does not cut in half, because problems with Native American women and children, and spouses basically being not present or non-existent. So if your mother's full-blooded Native American, then you are full-blooded Native American. If your father's full-blood Native American and your mother's not, then you're half. So like I said, by bloodline, I'm an eighth. By legal definition, I'm a quarter. So there's a lot of problems that come into play with, obviously, we all know something about Native American ancestry, but still to this day, there's so many problems. And there's so many Native American reservations all across the country, probably in every single state. They are very much invisible in some states, not so invisible in others. Like in Washington State, it's celebrated and revered. In Indiana, you can be in a city right next to a Native American reservation and not even know that that reservation is there, like South Bend, Indiana, for instance. And people can be raised in these places, like, let's say, Tulsa, Oklahoma. People can live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and have never heard of the race riots of 1921. That was a terrorist attack. I am from a tribe called the Totonto tribe that was obliterated into non-existence by fires and murder. The Totontos were from an area in Kansas, and you can't look Totonto up. It doesn't exist like on Wikipedia or the internet, as far as I know. I've tried. But if you go to the Tulalip tribes in Washington State, they have a written record of the Totonto tribes. That's where my great grandfather or no, that's where my grandfather was born, was on the Tulalip Native American Reservation. And um, the his mother's tribe was driven from Kansas to Washington State, the way so many were. And they were literally um, made extinct. They were buried in mass graves. Um, they were burned out, smoked out. They weren't allowed to speak their own language. If they did, the punishment for that was taking out. Um, and a lot of this, I feel like, is super similar to what's been going on with Native Hawaiians. And I never really identified with that until just over the weekend. And like I shared with you guys, my son graduated from boot camp over the weekend. So that was really thrilling, super exciting. And he was in a 10-week boot camp rather than your typical 8-week boot camp. And during boot camp, you don't get any outside news. You don't get to have your cell phone or internet access. And he got very little news. He did get a tiny bit, and he did hear about the fires in Maui. I was surprised. And I asked him what he thought and what people in his barracks thought, and they all thought it was very suspicious. This was boot camp for the Navy. They all thought it sounded extremely suspicious, hearing pretty much almost nothing about it except that it happened. So when I told him my perspective, and he's often skeptical of his mother, he was not skeptical at all. He thought, yeah, that sounds like what it was and what it is. Um, the native Hawaiian people have been on those islands for multi-generations. There's such an argument about what constitutes a native islander, because people that were inherent to that land are, for the most part, wiped out. A lot of the people that are called Hawaiian are from Polynesian descent and Samoan descent, and they've come over from other islands, Asian descent. And it's a very under reported and not well known, not well researched. Um, and the culture is a very rich, lovely culture that is at risk of becoming extinct, especially after a situation like what happened in Lahaina. And whatever started those fires in Lahaina, um, whether it was direct energy weapons or the downed power lines or a combination of the two, whatever started those fires, the response was not a proper response in any way, shape, or form. And those people know it. The people that were burned out of their village know it. The government knows it. I think a lot of greater America and worldwide people know it, but it's not getting coverage on the regular news. So those of us who are really intrigued and devastated by this story are finding our news on our little YouTube channels. And I know my YouTube channel is very little, but it's still literally 1,000 times bigger than I ever thought it could be. So I super appreciate you guys. You know, the 9/11 experience, I think those of us that are old enough, every single one of us can probably remember precisely what was going on when we found out about it on that day. Um, I mentioned it last year in one of my videos. I was 4 months pregnant with my first child. So she's 21 now. She's getting ready to graduate from college this year. But being a soon to be first time mom and being absolutely thrilled about it, it terrified me to bring a small person into a world like that. Absolutely terrified me. And I had the good fortune of climbing up into the Statue of Liberty. Let's see, I don't want to push my luck and mess with stuff, but let's see if I can make it a little bit more visible. Um, you can go take a ferry to Ellis Island and you can walk up the base on the outside, and then you walk inside the sculpture, and then there's a spiral staircase that goes all the way up into the crown. I remember being 7 years old and looking out of that crown right to the torch. And man, I wanted to go to the torch so bad. But of course, only maintenance people get to go to the torch. But my grandparents took me there, and I feel so fortunate. I've wanted to take my children there ever since I've had children. I have 4 now. And maybe someday we'll get there. But I mean, think about when 9/11 happened 22 years ago. And I was living in Seattle at the time. And one of the most stunning experiences for me, let me see if I can get that back better. Goodness gracious, I don't want to mess with it. Like I said, I don't want to push my luck. But one of the most profound experiences for me of the whole 9/11 situation, being in Seattle, being by a big city, I fully expected us to get blasted with Microsoft there, Boeing and others, Starbucks. And fortunately we didn't, but just having the all the airplanes grounded for, what was it, 7 or 8 days, and having such quietness in the skies, I would have thought that I would have enjoyed the peacefulness of the quietness in the skies, but it made me realize how much excitement I have every single time an airplane flies over, no matter what size. I think it's cool. And I look up and I'm like, oh, what's that? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Is it Superman? But there's so many things like that that we don't realize if we are from the continental US, the contingent, what they call the lower 48. I think that's mostly folks in Alaska that call us the lower 48. I don't know about Hawaii, since we're not lower from them, we're just over. Um, but they call it the mainland. In Hawaii, we're called the mainland. In Alaska, we're called the lower 48. And I was very fascinated with both Hawaii and Alaska as a young adult. I always thought that I would live in one or both of those places. I've had the good fortune of vacationing in both of those places and learned very quickly that they're amazingly beautiful, fascinating places that if you're not from there, it's really hard to adjust because there's so many things you don't think about that you're so used to. For instance, airplanes flying over. We live on grid, and much of the Hawaiian Islands still to this day are off grid. Most of Alaska obviously is still off grid. And you can feel it. You can feel the lack of electricity in the air. You can feel the lack of radio waves in the air. It's absolutely fascinating. Let me see what Dana wrote here. It's time for people to wake up, see reality as it is, not as we're told. I agree. And I don't know how to, pin the comments from my cell phone. Mark Molina, hello. J. Ronna Boomer, hello. Dana says, I bought into 9/11 like a dummy. The pictures of the Pentagon with absolutely no debris from a plane really opened my eyes. God bless American people that had been used as pawns in this game. Dana, I will be completely straightforward and honest with you. I know sort of a little bit what you might be talking about, but not really. I know that there's a lot of, for lack of a better term, not to be insulting at all, that there's a lot of conspiracy theories about 9/11. I've seen like the Michael Moore movie. I've done a little bit of research on it, but not enough to really understand it. But I absolutely trust what you're saying. I know you're a very loyal, valued viewer, and anybody who would put up with me, I appreciate. And I know you always have really good comments. So, yeah, I mean, basically, what I know is that, George Bush was reading a book to some children in a school when it was whispered in his ear about the first plane crash, and he continued to read that book, which, huh? I can't imagine. That really makes you wonder, really makes you scratch your head. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of information that I think shows evidence that it was known about. Um, I have a relative who lives in Sarasota, Florida, where some of the perpetrators that hijacked the airplanes were doing their training. And she saw one of them in the grocery store a few days before it happened. And she remembered him because of the way he looked, but more because of his energy, because he was so scary. He was very angry and um, I think she was in line like right in front of him or right behind him, and she noticed him right away and she was terrified. And then when this event happened and they showed pictures of the terrorists, she was like, "Oh my goodness, that's one of the guys." So they had a cell there in the Sarasota area. Um, but oh, it's crazy that people will do things like this. It's crazy to think with the Maui fires that anybody would intentionally set fire there. It's also crazy that anybody would block the roads for people to leave, even if they thought that that was for some type of safety. You would think that they would reassess the situation. I mentioned a few days ago that law enforcement officers are bound to abide by the law. They're also bound to abide by what their supervisors tell them to do. Um, but when their supervisors tell them to break the law, it's their individual obligation to not break the law. It's their individual obligation to go against their supervisor, basically be a whistleblower, which puts you at risk for harassment and losing your job and a lot of things. But there's whistleblower laws, but there shouldn't have to be whistleblower laws, and they don't really have any teeth. So um, the police that were preventing people from leaving burning flames, I believe, need to be held accountable. Obviously, that police chief needs to be held accountable, but I believe that each individual officer that led people to their demise or injuries. We haven't heard anything about injuries, you guys. I mentioned yesterday about a person from Ohio here in her 20s who returned to the mainland to see her family after the trauma of barely escaping the flames while living in Lahaina for many, many years. Um, and then she died in her sleep a few days ago in her 20s. And sure, it could have been an aneurysm for all we know, but I have wondered how much fallout we will see with that type of, people who breathed in toxic fumes. Um, the exposure was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And, it's smoke inhalation that kills people more so than the actual like burning alive. It's the smoke inhalation that kills people. Let me see what you guys are saying. I had a family member who worked at World in the Sky, whatever the restaurant was. She had an interview elsewhere, which saved her. Whoa, yeah, that's amazing, J. Rana Boomer. To stand up like Albuquerque sheriff did and say, "No, I will not follow your orders. It's not constitutional. And I choose to uphold the Constitution as an American." And as a law enforcement officer, it's your duty. It's absolutely your duty. And you're from Albuquerque, Dana. So, yeah, you know a lot about Native folks there, I would imagine. Proclamation of not parking and taking pictures all need accountability. Mental trauma and burns medic, no coverage at all, etc. No coverage at all. Exactly. Yeah, it's our constitutional right to be able to look at what's going on in our country. Um, we live in America. We do not live under a fascist regime by law. However, it looks like in Maui, it's 100% a fascist regime. It looks that way to me. Reading these proclamations is so important to me because that's what I see. Of course, there's things in the proclamations that are designed to at least look like they're for the health and safety of the people, but I see right through that. I see that as a thin veneer, that what those proclamations are all about are giving the state full control over everything and everyone. And I'm a licensed mental health provider. I would be interested in doing some of that work that is in this last proclamation and helping these people over there. However, they would probably not want me because I'm not going to abide by their dictatorship. I would just be real with people. I know from working in a private practice and working with government agencies that when you're with a government agency as a mental health provider, you are absolutely not able to help people to the same extent that you can when you're in private practice and you have your freedom. I say that from my own experience, in my own opinion. Oh, and everything I say is simply my opinion, simply for the sake of having a conversation with you guys and learning. And I love my channel to be educational. That's always my goal and my focus. All my videos are made for YouTube and it's an entertainment platform. And I apologize that it is so hard to read your tiny letters. Knowledge is power and information is healing. You know, I'm an expert in post-traumatic stress disorder. Information is healing. I've said it before and I know it really resonates with people that have PTSD. You can't possibly heal from an event, an incident that you don't even know what it was. You don't even know what you're healing from. So that goes for people, say, who were drugged and then date S-aid, date S-aid. You don't need to qualify it as a freaking date. It's disgusting. Um, but people in a situation like this with the fires, or people that survived 9/11, which I think is all of us, if you don't know what happened, you can't ever reconcile your pain and suffering. You need to know what happened. You absolutely need to know. So I can only hope and pray that the information in Lahaina will become known, because people aren't allowed to talk. If you guys are familiar with, is it called Starkey Farmstead? It's a new channel to me, and she just arrived over there a couple of days ago. One of the first things she said is that people are afraid and people cannot say what's on their mind. And it's understandable. It's not because they're sheep, it's because they know people who've passed away from this tyranny, in my opinion, and they know that they could be next. I'm just going to speak freely because this is absolute insanity. My perception of the big Harpo at the War Memorial Shelter, clutching her little pillow, my perception of her there and being interviewed was similar to Sammy Smith in her Tony Dodge interview and similar to Chris Watts in his infamous porch interview. I perceived a duper's delight. I perceived a duper's delight. Like I said, I'm just going to say it. Um, I hope I'm wrong. I hope to God that I'm absolutely in left field on that. I really do. Um, but I'm so concerned with the whole setup from the ground up. I'm so concerned with the land grab. I'm so concerned with her and The Rock saying that they're going to give $1,200 a month to each person that applies through their foundation. I'm concerned that they're taking that information so they can track people. I know there were rumors early on that there were computer chips in the pillows that were being distributed. I have no idea if that's true. It sounds crazy, so I would think that it's just a conspiracy theory. But taking people's information to register them for your monthly donation of $1,200 a month, like, it sounds like a very altruistic and generous donation. um, but I'm suspicious. Anybody who has that much money and is then going to present the People's Fund where the people can donate money to other people, like, yeah, that's what happens when celebrities spearhead these types of things. But that's not how you start. That's not what you ask for. You set yourself as a role model and you just say, look at me, I'm donating 1%. What would 1% of $3 billion be, you guys? What would 1% of $800 million be? Like, I can't think because I don't have a brain when I'm doing my stuff. You know, my cell phone's my brain. I'd have to do the math. I have a pen here and I have a piece of paper so I can try it, but you guys can probably come up with it quicker. So 800 million, 1% of that would be like 8 million. Is that right? So 1% of your income to donate, that's not a big deal. I mean, most people who participate in tithing to their religious groups, the typical tithing is 10%, and that's considered low by a lot of people. So 10% of your annual income goes to your church. That's considered low by a lot of people who tithe. And that's not a word that I think everyone is familiar with these days. But if I'm right, if 8 million is 1% of 800 million, which I think it is, then would 1% of 3 billion be 30 million? I think so. Um, Trial run for total control. And see, that's why I'm so drawn in, because if these people get away with this, yeah, it's not going to end there. It's people that are like that want to take over the world. They want to be the king of their island, so to speak, metaphorically, but here it's like a real thing. It's so much like the Game of Thrones, you guys. It's so scary. It's so brutal. People don't care about other people when it comes to that type of greed. They have no empathy, zero. They will fake empathy in order to gain more power. So my concern is that empathy has been faked, and then people are trusting and they give up their name, address, phone number, what used to be their address. It's another thing we need to look at is all of these people were cut off from electronic devices. Their cell phones weren't working. Their internet wasn't working. For how long? How long before the incident? So this is one of the problems with the lack of communication for evacuations, is that I think that the government actually did send out a text, but nobody had cell phone activity. Nobody had cell phone coverage. So nobody got a text. But then they could say, oh, well, look, we sent it out, but what happened? How come there was no cell phone activity? Why was that? Why was there a total blackout before the fire? Um, Why not just donate from their billions quietly and get their other friends to donate? Exactly, Mark. You are so sensible. Quit being ridiculously sensible. Um, and you know, I mean, I donate to things, and I always want to do it anonymously. I don't even like saying, "Oh, I donate to things," because it doesn't matter. You do what you can. If you can donate, that's great. I'm grateful to be in a position that I can. Um, but it's rude, I think, to say how much or to say, "Oh yeah, I'm a donator." Um, let's screw that. If that's why you're doing it is so that people know how sweet, kind, and generous you are, that's not sweet, kind, and generous. That's like egotistical, and um, that's narcissistic. That's absolutely narcissistic. The reparations that are being paid out is a trial run for universal income, which is BS. Yeah, reparations are a wild, wild thing for sure. Um, Trial run for total control. The Lahaina scenario has already played out multiple times across different nations. Exactly, Dana. And people want to say, oh, well, you're a conspiracy theorist and that's just crazy. Nobody would ever do something like that. People have done things like this historically. The the Tulsa massacre is a perfect example. But there are many people calling this the Maui massacre, and I 100% believe that it is, that it was, and that it is. And I don't think it's crazy to believe that there are many times over the fatalities of what are being reported. I would know nothing about the encampments that I've talked about had I not had a friend who lived there for 20 years. And I've only seen one channel talk about the encampments, you guys. That one channel was this guy who is a local and I believe native, and I believe he's a medic, first responder. And I will put the link to his video in the description of this video. I can't think of the name of his channel right now, but he was on duty and he was driving around and he was making a video. And I hope he doesn't get in any trouble for that, because he shouldn't. He's trying to comprehend what was going on, and he's trying to get the information out to the public. And one of the things he said, and you've probably heard about his channel if you haven't seen it already, is that he saw a deceased cat who was still standing and still had its fur, but had, I don't know if it could have died in the fire. I mean, I guess just from smoke, but he saw it as potential evidence of the direct energy weapons. And he said that he saw something else that he can't talk about and he won't talk about, and he dropped it. And you can only wonder what that is, if that was maybe human remains, because yeah, it's very difficult to talk about that. And I think that there are reports of 180 corpses washing up on the Lahaina. I think it's Lahaina. No, wait. Um, Lokai. Uh, Lahaina is the town that got burnt out. What's the island that starts with an L that 180 bodies washed up on, you guys? Can you help me out with that? Is it Lokai? It's a really small island, but that's just that one island, and that's just that one day. And imagine all the bodies that aren't washing up. Imagine all of the bodies that were absolutely disintegrated. Imagine all the bodies that are on that land that they've put up that black fence around so that no one can see in there, and there's no air traffic. No one's allowed to fly over. Again, with the air traffic, you know, it's a very normal thing in our country to have air traffic. Very normal. Um, yeah, it makes me really sad and mad too, Mark, about the animals. Apparently, there was a huge feral cat problem in Lahaina. Huge feral cat problems. So again, wealthy people that just don't like these kinds of nuisances, instead of buying cat food and feeding them or getting them spayed, or, you know, all the things that so many nice common people do that love animals and see feral cats and want to do what they can, not to enable the situation but to actually help. That could have been some of the motivation too, is to destroy the colonies of feral cats. I don't know. um you know, one of the things that people love about the Hawaiian Islands is that there's no snakes, there's no spiders, there's just none of these like creepy creatures. There's the little lizards, the geckos, and those are considered good luck, and they're everywhere. They're like on the wall, they might be on your leg, but they're cute. They kind of freak you out at first, but then you realize that, oh, okay, they're good luck and they're adorable. Pixie Knickers is here again. So yeah, I'm sorry that I asked you for your email address in public. So I will give you my email address one more time. The problem with my email is that it's so full, and I've been trying to buy more memory and delete emails, but Justice A to Z, ATOOZ at gmail.com. So if you're up for it, Pixie Knickers, if you just send me an email every couple of days until you hear back from me, once you hear back from me, you'll know that I got your address. But you don't have to send me your address in each email. If once we get the back and forth, I can just say, got your email, please send me your address now. And again, I apologize for being so problematic. I'm just really grateful that you're still here, not completely sick of me. Air traffic watch monkey wars. Hi, Jeff. And Dana says, I commented on Hawaii Real Estate Guy's channel from his video yesterday, and he just replied, text him. Do you think I should? He left his number. What to do? What to do? Yeah, I would text him. I know he's been giving out his number. But I also know he's gotten a million texts. But if he asked you to text him, I would just go ahead and say, you know, you asked me to text you, so here it is. So hey, Crime Watch, what's up? Just, it doesn't say just pooping in. Just popping in to say hi, or pooping. And okie dokie, can do, and no worries. Oh, you're just so sweet and patient, girl. Let's see, nothing like it says, hello everyone, much love. We're thankful to have you, Jazz. Oh, you're so sweet. Let me take a drink of water real quick. Again, I guess I'm extra thirsty and maybe a little bit hoarse. I was so amazed that I could read through that 25 page document yesterday twice. That was crazy. So 90 minutes each time. He said he has some information to share. Oh, wow. Well, I'll text him too. If he put his number in there, I'll read through the comments and text him and ask him what the information is. I'm so happy that he's still doing his thing. I mean, Eric West from the Hawaii Real Estate Channel, I feel like, has single-handedly gotten a lot of this information out to the public. There are handfuls of other really good channels. I mentioned a few of them in my description yesterday. I put the names of them with their links, and I'll do that again today with different ones from the ones yesterday, because I am finding that I am just very, very interested in learning more about this whole situation, and there's just not a lot of information out there. So if you guys know of some good channels too, go ahead and mention them. Without a mod here, we won't be able to make it a hyperlink. But if there's other great channels, you guys are always really helpful for letting me know about good content creators. from his video yesterday. Yeah, he committed to doing 2 videos a day when he started, and then I think it was right before the weekend, he said that he was packing it in, and that, you know, he was getting threats to his life, which we all know from our true crime stuff, because he's not a true crime channel. And a lot of these channels that I've found that are covering this are not true crime channels, but they're covering this. Like Brush Junkie, she's phenomenal. And she's a makeup channel, and she grew up in Hawaii. And her videos are some of the best I've seen. Um, and what else? There's a lot of good ones out there I know that I haven't discovered yet, but you know, Starkey Farmland, excellent, and she's just going right for the heart of the matter and trying to help people. Eric West is trying to help people, trying to educate people. So when he said he was getting threatened and that he was going to stop doing these types of videos and he was just going to go back to doing his real estate stuff because he also needs to keep working and making money to support himself and his family, I totally understood. But I also know that nobody would be threatening you if you were just talking out of your rear end, right? As true crime aficionados, we know that true crime channels only get shadow banned and only get trolled when they are onto something. Like with Kylie Rodney, those of us that have known all along that she did not get into a drunk driving accident, that those of us who knew all along from day one of Sammy Smith's interview with Tony Dodge that something was terribly wrong with that picture. People that knew Chris Watts and people that didn't know Chris Watts knew that something was terribly wrong with that porch interview. You don't have to be a trained detective to be able to detect this stuff. Detectives are better at it because they're trained and they know more of the nuances to look for, and they know how to articulate better what they're looking for. But you just pick up on this stuff. You can trust your instinct. And when you see people smiling in these heinous situations, like when their best friend is missing or their family's missing, and they have a smile on their face, yes, sometimes that can be nervousness, but if it's a really relaxed smile, that's a dead giveaway. No pun intended, right? There's just, to me, it was evidence in the Kylie Rodney case when I started getting shadow banned when I was just a tiny brand new channel. And I had no idea what that term even meant. I'd never heard it before. And people were telling me, you've been shadow banned. And I know that when I got back into Kylie Rodney, right prior to the 1-year anniversary, that it was happening again, where some loyal subscribers were getting unsubbed. And, you know, I went from having thousands of views to having hundreds of views. And I'm not concerned with the numbers. I've yet to make a dime off of my YouTube channel. I'm not doing it for the money. I won't mind if and when I ever make money on it, but that's not my motivation. And I'm just happy to be in a position that I can make videos that have nothing to do with making money, nothing to do with getting clicks or likes or views or subs. Those things are helpful to keep your channel strong so that you don't just disappear into oblivion. So that's why people like me are constantly making those requests with the little thumb. And, you know, I found this and I just thought, oh, it's so cute, right? And I made my own little sign because I don't have 10,000 subs yet. And then when I have my 10,000 subs, I guess YouTube might make me a sign. But in the meantime, I bought a little like cardboard placard thing and did my best with a black Sharpie. Anyway, it's not about that. It's about truth. It's about justice. It's about having my voice, creating my content, and then giving you guys a platform for your voices too. I know a lot of you probably don't want to have your own channel, and a lot of you may want to have your own channel. And I highly recommend it for anybody who thinks that they would enjoy it, because it is so much more enjoyable than I had any idea. Of course, it's a ton of work and it's very challenging, but I'm the kind of person that loves a good challenge. So, you know, I don't care if I get shadow banned. I don't care how much technical difficulty happens. I will figure it out. I will persevere. So, you know, I mean, I fear that from mentioning things like what I've mentioned in this video, that I could get completely shut down. And if I do, so be it. I'll go over to Rumble or something like that. Um, there's no point in doing this if I'm not going to speak the truth. And again, like I said at the beginning too, you can only be so honest because it's YouTube. You know, I can't tell you guys my address or anything like that. I mean, I haven't even told you guys my name. I'm Jazz. I'm Xena. I'm her. I'm Justice. I mean, I am humbled to have people care what I'm doing on my channel, and to call me these things, to call me Jazz and Xena and Justice. It's very humbling. And I would love to tell you guys my name, and you know, if my channel gets big, then Google will probably tell you my name. But in the meantime, it's important for me to keep my privacy for safety, and also just so that I have some anonymity and I can just live my life the way I'm used to living it. Because I know from living in places like Southern California, I know how weird it makes people's lives when they get famous. Dana says, I tried to purchase something online today and they declined my credit card and my debit card, saying they were not accepting any Visa MasterCard payments for the whole month of September. But why? I have no idea. No idea at all. Dana, Elsie, Jazz, Kenny, Pixie. Hey, Sunset, Salty Sage. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. I love that. JFK. Love that. Oh, Dana, you are absolutely so sweet. And I appreciate that. If I could pin it, I would. But I'm afraid if I try to pin it, I'll like knock it over or something. Because like I said, it's just my cell phone and it's kind of precarious. I'm looking forward to doing my videos from my laptop again. But at least I know how to do them from my cell phone. And I thought it was Jazz. Yes, I gotta be cautious with your privacy. Um, yeah, you know, like I said, I wish that I could just tell you my name and all that stuff. You know, like I didn't want to tell people that I was in Chicago for my son's graduation until I got back from Chicago from my son's graduation, because we all know there's crazy freaking stalkers out there. Although I wouldn't recommend it because I've got a lot of first responders in my family of all three types. So I would not be a good person to stalk, and we've got surveillance cameras because of the line of work. And I'll just be honest with you, not so much because fear of the thugs, fear of the thugs within the organization itself, being honest with you. Grr, you know what I'm saying? We did not get surveillance cameras at our home because we were fearful of criminals, other than the professionals, basically. I'll just leave it at that. I know sometimes when I whisper, the cell phone doesn't actually record it. There's no point in stalking people with no fear. You know, and you just never know who to fear. I remember when I first bought Mace and I was living in Portland, Oregon, I was in my 20s, and I had it with me because I took a long walk through the city one morning, like a Saturday morning or something, and I just thought, oh, I have my Mace, I'll be fine, because I was so silly. But The person that kind of accosted me was a little old lady who was probably on like a day pass from a psychiatric facility, and she like tried to touch my face. I think she might have touched my face, but it didn't occur to me until I got away from her that somebody like that would be who I would need to use my mace on. Um, had it occurred to me, I probably would have maced her, which would have been terrible. But she was definitely insane and crossing boundaries and lines. And I don't even remember the whole story. I just remember being down on the waterfront at a park in downtown Portland. It was like 10:30 in the morning. My husband was at home and I was just out getting some exercise, and I was blown away. Like, you just never know what to expect. And especially when it comes to crimes and weird crap like that, you can never predict this stuff. Um, I like to live by the have no fear and carry a big stick motto. Sunset. I love that. Yeah. And, I've shared with you guys that book, The Gift of Fear, is one of my all time favorite books. And it's looking at fear. The reason for the weird title is that it's looking at fear as a gift because it's gifting you with information. It's gifting you with your instinct that you need to be fearful. Vlogger Supriya Roy. Hello. I don't recognize your name. Thanks for dropping in. And yeah, so Gavin DeBecker wrote that book, and the thing about violence is it's so unpredictable. So even when you take your most violent individual, like a Ted Bundy is a perfect example, he was a perfect gentleman with a great sense of humor 99.9% of his life, you guys, according to everybody that's ever known him or been around him. Hey, Shanda, what is up? Just waking after nap. We'll have to replay crew. Morning. Oh, you're so sweet to be here. I was thinking about you last night when I went to sleep, and how about a year ago I got into this routine where I was doing my lives every morning, and that was how I met you. And you said something about how you love waking up with your coffee, and what was your phrase about justice? Justice in Java or something like that. And I was just like, oh, cool. So I'm part of your like morning routine, like wake up, drink your coffee. And I remember what it was. Ungaslight yourself. That's when you shared that with me. Waking with Java and justice. And we're all ungaslighting ourselves together. So Shan, thank you so much for modding, and thank you everybody for being here. I got on today. Let's see where we're at. I'm going to have to wrap it up in about 5 minutes, unfortunately. But I got on today to talk about 9/11, Maui, Kylie Rodney. I don't think I've even mentioned her yet. And, I've been so hungry for information about this tragedy in Hawaii that I've honestly kind of lost interest in keeping up with all the crap with Idaho 4. And I hate to say that because I am very passionate about that case. But all the banter back and forth and all of the, like, what I see is like fake news and fake podcasts right now. Like, I had already lost interest in it before Maui happened. I was already just not watching all of these things that I had been watching. I mean, that case has been going on for coming up on 10 months now. Yeah, in just a couple of days, it'll be 10 months. Tomorrow will be the 10-month anniversary from when it happened, and it has consumed many channels, my own included. I did not want to focus on that case. I was committed to Kylie Rodney. I was committed to Trinity Backus. And then that case caught my interest for the same reason Kylie Rodney Same reason Trinity, same reason Maui, you guys. It's the straight up what I perceive as corruption in the law enforcement. 100%. And that's what I have discovered is my passion for my channel. Not just justice against crime, but the organized crime in law enforcement, the officials who take advantage of the opportunity and the trust that they've been given. If you are in a position like that and you want to abuse your power, it's easy. It's easy. I've never been in law enforcement, but I have been in the law enforcement of mental health, and I can see how easy it was. I could see how easy it was when I was doing the crisis and commitment evaluations, and whichever choice I made, whether to detain someone because they were a danger to self or others, or to do a less restrictive treatment plan, whichever one it was, I had to document it thoroughly, and especially if I was stripping them of their civil rights, because this was in the state of Washington, which is more liberal than most with that. And when I would be sitting down to do my documentation to support my decision, I realized how I could just like switch a word around, like one word, to make my case to cut this person loose or to make my case to lock this person up. And I was blown away because I honestly felt like I saw some of my coworkers around me take the easy route every time. And what that usually meant was not stripping someone of their civil rights because it was less paperwork and people wanted to go home on time. And I was just like, if somebody hurts themselves or somebody else because you were lazy, and I saw it happen more than once with my coworkers. One time it was somebody who took her life the next day, and my coworker was devastated, and I was just like, you got to be kidding me. I saw you being lazy. Like, you have no right to be devastated. Like, you have no right to be doing this, period. Another time it was not somebody who ended up taking someone's life, but they threatened somebody and they went to jail. And it was a really bad situation. And the coworker who had made that call and had let this person go on a less restrictive treatment plan, you know, I was just like, so if the person's life had been taken, would you be able to live with that? Because I couldn't. I mean, I simply couldn't. Um, and of course, I heard stories about other county designated mental health professionals that were horrifying, but it was on each one of us to decipher the law and to make the diagnosis and the assessment, interview people, interview the person that you're evaluating, and make the best decision possible. And of course, I always knew that I might make my best decision possible and someone could still hurt themselves or somebody else. And it's like, as long as I know that I'm doing my best, that's all I can do. So on that, I'm going to have to wrap it up. I'm going to read what I can here. They have till today to catch this guy, because tomorrow I got to get back to my channel. Squirrel. I love that. Funny. Is the sound cutting out for anybody else? It keeps bleeping. Oh no. Fred Field says, late, so we'll watch replay. Pixie Knickers, no, Dana may close it and come back. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll get that taken care of. And Shanda can probably help me. She's a whiz with this kind of stuff. No, but I can hear her Tesla ball or a frequency. Otherwise, no issues with AV. Had to do it twice, but thank you. It worked. Pixie Knickers. Morning, Shan LC. All right, you guys. I am so sorry to have to cut out. I hope that we can do this as a routine again, once again. And thanks so much for being here. Thank you kindly for supporting the channel and being interested in what I see as truth and justice. And I feel it's very important. And again, I'm going to ask people to suffer through the reading of the proclamation in yesterday's video. If you can handle it, I think it's worth it because there's a lot of good information in there. It's very repetitive, but I think it's important to know it word for word so that you can choose what is important to you rather than having it be cherry picked by somebody else and then you're getting that information secondhand. So that's why I just felt a real calling to read it out loud for anybody who wants to know exactly what's in there, who might even be prone to reading it themselves, but then they can read along while listening so that maybe the information sinks in better. Because I know for myself, it's hard to get that information to sink in because it's so just bureaucratic sounding and so repetitive. So you guys have a lovely Tuesday. I hope that you can feel productive and relax both at the same time. Be yourself and just be good to the people around you. Take really good care of yourself. Make sure you're drinking your water and staying hydrated, getting great nutrition, high protein, fruits and veggies. And, you know, follow your bliss, follow your heart, do what inspires you. It's so important that we don't feel like slaves and prisoners in our own lives. So, sending you light, sending you love, and see you soon, hopefully tomorrow around the same time. And let's see, and take care. Have a great day. Light and love.